information I've just given you. We can share the questionnaire, we can put the link in the chat, all of that. But the theme of hope, we've got to hold on to hope that things can get better in the mental health experience of our communities. And we've shown a lot of resilience as communities to date. My concern is that very many members of our BAME communities are going to be coming forward or needing to come forward for support, but may well be very mistrusting and not have confidence in mental health services. So their symptoms go untreated. And we all know that early intervention is cruel. Early intervention is crucial. And therefore, we all have a responsibility to really help develop that trust and develop that confidence. And as a statutory mental health service, we desperately need your support. And it's not just about involving you and listening to you. It's very much about working with you and enabling you to hold us accountable for doing something different this time and making things better. I feel I've just talked for about half an hour, so apologies. Once I get going, I can't stop. But as I said, Beverly and Rudy, you know, the two organisations are working in partnership with us on this, and I'm sure they already have access to all the links and the information that they can share with you. And of course, I'm more than happy to take any questions or comments.
Right.
Thank you, Latvi. We hold your questions until after Marisha's presentation, so we'll have some time at the end to ask any questions. Thank you very much, Latvi. So now I'll ask Marisha Stevenson. Many of you might hear on New Style Radio. So she's a wealth coach, and she will make her presentation now about wealth management. Is that your topic? Thank you, Marisha.
Yeah, well, what I will say, good evening, everyone. Hi, thanks for having me, Beverly, and thank you, Rudy. It's much appreciated, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you who I haven't met before. And hello to everyone who I do know. So my intention is to keep it fairly brief, but what I would say is if you have specific questions, please feel free to ask, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Because I think what I would say at this point is there's probably a couple of considerations. So looking at some of the people in the room whose names I do know and know whether you're in business or not, I'm not clear on that for everyone. My initial response to the question that I was asked from Beverly was to really speak more from a personal standpoint, but I will add in a couple of business factors because I think it is quite important for the climate that we're in. And it was pointed out by Andy at the beginning of this evening that there are financial challenges that are going to be ahead of us. And that is something that I think we all have some level of clarity around. Now, you know, a small percentage of people came out of the pandemic in a better situation than they were in before, and that's great. A decent number came out pretty much where they were. But a lot of us have experienced some kind of difficulty, whether that's been in business loss, whether that's been looking at changes in our jobs, careers, and our prospects. And so I wanted to give you just a few practical considerations, but also mention a couple of other things that could be beneficial to you in your journey. I think the first thing, actually, I'm going to put at the top of the list is really just trying to educate yourself as much as you can around finances and around any specific areas that are either of interest to you or of concern. At the moment, knowledge is power. And I know that that phrase is a bit of a cliche, but it actually, in the last 12 to 18 months, I think has proven to be true. When the pandemic kicked in, I think it's fair to say that the people that are thriving and have survived it are probably the people who were able to adapt most quickly and were able to use a level of creativity to keep themselves going in a different way, particularly if your business was directly impacted by the pandemic, i.e. you had to shut down or you were immediately put on furlough or whatever the case may be. So creativity is definitely important, but creativity often comes from knowledge, and you're able to be more creative the more that you know. So I really do encourage people to educate themselves. It's the reason why for the last 15, coming on to 16 years, I was stood up in New Star Radio's studios every Saturday morning now for a couple of hours, in the aim really to not just educate myself, but educate people listening about the things you can do to improve your prospects. And then getting into some practical things, and I think you should be doing this whether you are a business or whether this is personal or if it's a mixture of both. Number one, it's just time to redo the budget. Many people will know that the 5th and final self-employment grant is currently available to be applied for. It will run for 3 months up to the end of September. And after that point, there will be no more government support available for the self-employed in that way. A lot of people who may have taken bounce back loans last year will find themselves now in a period of time where you're having to pay those back. And that's regardless of whether your business has bounced back or not. So in those two instances, for example, what I'm saying is redo the budget, whether it's your business budget or your personal budget. Start looking at what the new world looks like. If you have a bounce back loan and it is a bit of a struggle or it's a bit of a stretch right now to keep up with those payments, there are options that are available to you. In extreme cases, the loans can be written off, but again, this is where education comes into play. I did do a short video and I popped it up on YouTube to explain a little bit more about that, so feel free to check it out. And if not, call your bank or whomever you have the loans with if you're experiencing difficulties, and ask them what options are available to you. There are quite a few. It doesn't necessarily mean it goes away, but it might help ease the blow in the short term. So, and then on a personal level, again, redoing the budget for me means let's check in with all of our key providers. 1st of October, we're expecting an energy price rise. That's going to be across the board. I'm sure you've heard in the news in the last week, lots of chat about energy companies going bust, what some of those issues are. What's happening is if you are with a smaller company and that company goes bust, you're being put with one of the big companies. As of the 1st of October, there is a flat agreement across the industry that all prices are going up for consumers because wholesale prices have increased. There are still opportunities for you to get yourself on a fixed deal if you do it between now and the end of the month. The Money Saving Expert website is excellent for that. There's a link on there that will allow you to check out what deals are available. But wherever you can, cut back. When we're looking at things like business accounts, are you paying for your business account? i.e., do you have a monthly fee attached to that account or what have you? If that's the case, consider moving to one of these online starter banks like Starling or Monzo, who again will give you free banking, will give you access to your money in a way that doesn't money. So really just try and think about doing as many practical things that you can do to lean out that budget as much as possible. And then I think what I would say is then let's just set some new goals. If you have had a very difficult pandemic period, it is very likely that there will be opportunities available to you moving forward, but let's just reset. And I say this to people all the time, but don't be afraid to ask for help. It's really easy when we get into financial challenges or difficulties for that to take a mental toll on us, for that to take a toll on our health and well-being. And this is where sometimes a bit of balance comes into play. I mean, one of the things that I just do as a matter of course is exercise is a big part of my life, but it doesn't always have to be strenuous stuff. Even today, I just went for a walk, 45 minutes out in the sunshine. I came back fresh with lots of ideas and different things going through my mind on how I could continue to add value or things I could do to improve just my working day or my business life. So I would encourage you to do that and to just set new goals as we move into this new period. The world has changed, granted, but there are so many opportunities. There were millionaires that were made throughout the pandemic because they took advantage of a new way of us doing business. Think about what some of those new habits have looked like for you, and think about ways in which you might be able to incorporate that either into your business or into your lifestyle. And as I say, re-establish some of your goals based on that. One of mine, just to give you a little bit of insight, two things actually became very clear to me during the pandemic period. One of them was that I was not taking advantage enough of information available to me, i.e., I have over the years developed certain expertise, but am I making that information available to my customer base? Am I offering them value? And in turn, could I be receiving some kind of remuneration for that? So thinking about things like that was one thing, and it really made me hone in on the data that I have available and how that can offer value to other people. But secondly, something for me, which is actually just mega practical, which is I'm just reducing my online spending, because I don't know about you, but during lockdown, I got really good at clicking and having things delivered. Lots of online ordering was going on. And you know what? Now that we're back and we're back into more conventional ways of doing business, I'm really just looking at that and just checking that subscriptions I have are actually needed, checking that the spending that I'm doing in a month is actually necessary, and just reeling that back in a little bit, because there are definitely ways in which we will have changed our habits for positive ways during the pandemic that reduced our costs that we can continue to run with, but it also means pulling back on the things that started to cost us a little bit more money that we can ultimately save on. As I say, it's just a few pointers, and I'm sure I've not said anything to anyone that on some level you don't already know and have an awareness of, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a reminder. And all I would say is just feel free to ask specific questions. Recently, I've got about 10 videos to edit and upload onto YouTube, but just so that you know, they're around things like the bounce back loan, energy and how to get cheaper deals, ways in which to consider your mindset and how that might be impacting the way you're spending. Lots of different subjects around that that I'm uploading onto YouTube now, just to try and give people a bit of a reminder, a bit of a boost, and a bit of encouragement that, you know what, things might have been tough, but actually we can do better than survive. If we're savvy moving forward, we can actually thrive through this period.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Marisha.
Yeah.
Maybe you could put your YouTube link in the chat or something.
Yes.
Yeah, happy to. I'll put the details there.
Yeah, if you put all your details, that'll be most helpful, Marisha, and we will circulate it around all the networks. And it's quite inspirational what you said. And like you said, sometimes it is good to hear it again and again for all of us. Really,
a lot of food for thought. So I'll now hand over to Rudy and Beresford for the question and answer period.
Right, excellent. Right, so what I'd like to do, Beresford, just go back to what Lakvir was saying about the PCREF and some of the initiatives from within the community. I'm actually pleased that Mark Nelson is on this platform with us today. The reason being, we've had some dialogues in terms of one of our settings within our community that we felt was important for the PCREF related to the role of our barbershops. And we thought it was essential that our barbershops, our hairdressers, and some of our other settings, again, start being integrated and be accepted as integral for these dialogues around our mental well-being. And what impressed me with this particular group, and Mark, I bring Mark in, was that they weren't just thinking about the adult mental health, but their greatest concern was about the young people. And of course, Beresford, we've had this discussion about the third generation, the impact as it relates to mental health, the Caribbean, African and Caribbean population group as it relates to the third generation, and no doubt the fourth generation coming up just as quick. So Mark, just you like to just to say a few words, and then I'll hand back to Beresford and he will carry on. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks Rudy. Sorry for that I came in late, but I had a very busy day. I'm going to keep it brief. It was very interesting listening to some of the things that's been said. One of the things that, well, I'll introduce myself first. Sorry, guys. I'm a partner in Mary J's. It's a hair and beauty salon based in the city centre. We see ourselves not just as a business, a salon, but an important integral part of the community in terms of service, because what we can actually offer, aside from getting people to look good or feeling better about themselves. The Black community has had culturally barbershops and salons where people share a lot of information, and it's a trusted environment. Most importantly, that's one of the things that I heard that was brought up was trust, and the Black community not trusting the system that much. But it's a trusted environment to share views, concerns, feelings, etc. And I think making use of an established cultural network would be an opportunity that would be missed if it's not considered as integral to whatever interventions and ideas the NHS or the services are putting forward. So my thing really is that we have an opportunity as a salon, as a business, to engage with the different generational individuals as well, young as well as old, in regards to how they feel, how they're feeling. And most importantly, we engage with people from different walks of life. So we engage with professionals as well. So the salons is an ideal place really to signpost individuals to services that may be benefit to them, and then be probably more likely to consider it because, as I said, it's a trusted environment that they're in. So my view is I think incorporating these types of businesses, I think, is extremely important moving forward, and we could bring a lot to the table.
Thank you for that, Mark. And Beresford, back to you.
Thank you, Mark.
Well,
nice to see you.
Thank you, Beverly. Pleasure.
Thank you, Mark, and also thank you, Marisha. And we're going to come back to you both shortly, and also Latvia.
Latvia, the question and answer now.
So just like, let me just go to a question in the chat. Jennifer Pearson, if you could just really just talk to us about directly, because I think it's really important when we have such a good audience and a good response to this hope and resilience piece, that we do get to hear from some of the people online. So Jennifer, it'd be great if you could just put your point to us, unmute yourself and just share your point, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beresford. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes, we can.
We can hear you.
Excellent. Sorry, my camera doesn't work on my NHS laptop, I'm afraid. Beresford, I think I recognise you from church, BCC, am I correct?
Yep, same Beresford.
That would be true.
Oh my goodness, goodness me. Anyway, yes, I am a lead nurse at University Hospitals Birmingham, and I've been very involved in the vaccine dialogues with Rudy, and very involved in the national team around vaccination, increasing uptake. Today I've been speaking to a load of Freedom to Speak Up Guardians. So these are individuals who are regarded as trusted individuals in the NHS. BAME NHS workers are not going to them with concerns, and mental health has increased amongst BAME nurses, doctors, healthcare workers generally. There's just a lack of trust in speaking up. There's a lack of trust, as we heard, around accessing mental health, lack of trust in the vaccine, and there's just this huge lack of trust. And I just wanted to make the point really about the hairdressing industry. And, you know, this isn't tongue in cheek, but I know how long it takes me in a hairdresser to have my weave done. Sorry, it's not natural, but I know how long it takes, and I could be in there 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. And as a nurse, I know I could easily be imparting information, and I know that there's an opportunity missed there to advertise and to have public health information around diabetes, mental health, domestic violence. I just think we're missing a trick here. So I think it's a really good point that your previous speaker, Mark, I think made. And that's all I wanted to say, really. And it's good to see you all.
Thank you for that, Jennifer, because that's why we were determined, our team, to ensure that we did have a setting in a barbershop, and the hairdressing salon is on the cards as well, as Mark has indicated. That'll be sometime next month, because it is important. So there's something now that's really come out from, as we work through the pandemic, trusted environment. So we speak about, and it's accepted, trusted messengers. The trusted environments has kind of been led by the church, but it can't be just about the church. There are other environments in which our community occupy. So we will start to look at some other settings as well, as it relates to where our community sort of congregates.
Yeah, and I think that'd be a good point. If I could ask Latvia just to come back in, because Latvia, again, was really sharing about the PCREF and the work that we're doing within the organisation and the role of community engagement, because as Latvia says, we can't do this by ourselves as a trust. So Latvia, I wonder if you wanted to expand on the role of community engagement and why barbershops and also takeaway shops, we should be engaging with them in a very, very different way.
Public health, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, first of all, apologies. My internet connection keeps dropping out this evening. So if I disappear, that's why. Yeah, so as I was saying, it's not just about listening to communities about what's important to them. It's actually listening to what communities think will work and be effective. So for me, why should we not have outreach workers out in barbershops and salons talking to people there? Why should we not have clinics out in communities? Why should we be expecting people to come to us all of the time? And I really do, I've been around for a fair while, for some of you who know me. And I really do think this is an opportunity to really, really shift the dial, which is a phrase that, my good friend Beresford is very familiar with, and actually have voices really listened to, because it's not just about coming up with the ideas, it's also about sharing the resource. And the argument I keep making at various meetings is it's great to listen to communities, it's great to involve communities, it's great to hear their ideas, but we also have to trust communities to actually deliver on this stuff. So that for me is where the commissioning cycle comes in as well, and sharing the resource and properly resourcing communities to support us in delivering this. Barbershop, this is not a new idea, but this has been known about for a long time. 10 years ago, there was the Barbershop magazine. We've got colleagues in our secure care services who are waxing lyrical about the work that could potentially be done with barbershops. So it's been talked about a lot, but actually we've got to get to the point now of saying, yes, we know this will work. We know that everybody is behind it. Now we've got to appropriately resource it and take this way, this to the next step, and appropriately getting colleagues properly funded to do this work. And that's where the community voice is so important in these discussions.
And again, this pandemic where we are now, because it's about the commissioning intent. And there is clarity now from a commissioning perspective when we talk about barbers, we talk about the salons, and as Beresford mentioned, the takeaways, these environments that the community is, it's an integral part of community life. And of course, neighborhoods as well. There's lots of neighborhoods where the community gathers, that people are prepared to get information, advice and guidance that are in their economic and mental well-being, but it's how it's the commissioning again. So I think this PCREF approach gives us an opportunity to look at commissioning, even if it's just simple pilot commissioning, and let's just prove it by practice. So,
Rudy, can I just come back in? The fancy phrase for this is asset-based community development, strength-based community development, and so that, you know, lots of people talk about it.
Yeah.
But actually, it's how we translate that into practice.
Yeah.
So we know what the strengths are, we know where the assets are. So, you know, we've got to the point now of actually saying, how do we build on that?
Exactly, and that's why I really focus on the commissioning intent, because historically, and I've worked with commissioners, and Beresford knows this, that once the commissioning decision making starts, it goes back to previous relationships, as opposed to developing new relationships so that we improve inclusion. And that's why I kind of asked earlier on that if we're talking about improving outcomes for underrepresented groups, then we can't be commissioning the same people and expecting any difference in delivery. And we've got to demonstrate that new ways of delivery, new ways of communication, new people are actually involved in the delivery of services within the population groups that they know. And very rarely is that type of information included in the commission intent documents so that it can be really measured.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that, Rudy, and thank you for that, Latvia. And I really want to get back to some of the points that Marcia made. But just before we do that, we've got two questions, and we're running out of time as well. So we've got two questions in the chat. I'm going to ask Claudette and also David Lewis to just speak to their points. Claudette, if you could go first, please. Claudette, are you there? Are you there, Claudette?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you just make your point, please? Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. I just literally accidentally bumped into your meeting, so I'm very, very grateful to have this opportunity. So as I said earlier on, I work at the Royal Field Hospital. The small hospital is a fantastic place to be, but we need a lot of work doing. And I joined the Equality and Diversity Network because of my own experience. I've been sharing it for the last 2 years. And just listening to you guys and the wealth of information and the work that you were doing, I think you would very much benefit from having some support from you guys. So, you know, just being able to, I know Jennifer has taken my contact sheet, and I'm sure I'll hear from her. So, I mean, 3 years ago was the first time we celebrate Black History Month in the hospital. And you've been doing some fantastic work, but I really need some more support from, you know, the BAME community. So, you know, that'd be actually fantastic if you could achieve that.
Okay, Claudette, we're losing you, but I think we got the gist of what you're saying in terms of support and valuing being on this platform. And it is good for us as well, because as I mentioned earlier on with Andy Street, one of the outcomes of some of the vaccine confidence works with NHS England and NHS Improvement has been this focus on the workforce is the community and the community is the workforce. So given the innovative approach and different approach that we're taking through the PCREF, then there's absolutely no reason why we wouldn't have as one of our settings would be a workforce setting as well, because it's the same community grappling with the same issues as well in terms of families, Marisha's point, in terms of, you know, how we think about our well-being. And it's a holistic approach. Again, we use the term holistic, but we have to break down the barriers. And this, at the moment, with the change, the NHS going through its changes with these integrated care systems, as Latvia mentioned earlier on, probably gives us an opportunity within the community settings to improve the integration between the workforce and the community as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
David, if we could go, thank you, Claudette. David, if you could make your point brief, please.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, just want to thank you for this opportunity just to say a few words. Over the last 10 years, Beresford will be aware, and Beverly and perhaps Latvia, that I've been in the US, in Washington, DC, in particular running a psychiatric rehabilitation day program. Just want to congratulate the young gentleman who just mentioned about the barbershop, and Latvia then endorsed it, because that is the main source of engaging with the community over there, and it seems to be bringing in some rapid results. But what I would encourage the team there, Beresford, Latvia, is that whoever goes out, they need to be trusted folks that would not only just take these individuals, introduce them to other resources, but literally take their hand and take them through the process. Because like anything on the streets, news gets around very quickly. And if you do a good job, believe me, the news gets around. But if it's just taken from the barbershop and then they're left stranded, that news will get around also. But I do believe that that is the #1 route to get into, particularly, I'm not saying our women, we need our women, but our young Black men, I think that is the number one route. Thank you. That's what I need to say. Have a good evening, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for that,
David.
You could maybe endorse that we have been doing.
The key things that the guys in the barber shop said, it wasn't even so much about their mental health. It was about the young men in particular. That was their #1 concern. What can we do for the young men in the community? And that's why the owner, Peter, said yes. Peter and Marvin, who own that particular barber shop on Lazells Road, says, yes, we want to be involved with this. So thanks for that, Dave.
Just a point on, again, Marisha's point. Marisha made the point about it's really important to start looking after ourselves.
Yeah.
And if there is somebody on this line, or if you know of someone that is really struggling with their own health and well-being and their mental health, there are several organizations that you can get support and help from. But there's also a 24-hour helpline, and I'll give people that number now, which is 0121 number 262 3555. I'll say that again, 0121 262 3555, and that's a 24-hour helpline. So if you are concerned about your own mental health, or you know of someone that is struggling with their mental health, it's really important. The point about digital platforms like this, it's about access to information. People can get help, but they need access to the information. And I'd also encourage people to go and have a look at the waiting room. It's a standard key fob that is very popular. And if you go into Google and put the waiting room, TWR, the waiting room, there's a whole range of services there which are linked to health and well-being. So that would be my final comments. I really want to thank everybody for taking part, and Beverly and Rudy, over to you.
Thank you for that, Beresford. Beverly, I will hand over to you to close as we've
I think it's there that you have the final say. I've spoken enough. And it was good to see Mark there from the barbershop. And we've had, a couple good sessions in the barbershop and had some really positive and healthy discussions, and I'm lost for yeah, some good healthy discussions and recommendations, I want to say.
Yeah.
So we'll be following up on them.
And also, we also were hosted by the New Jerusalem Church, Bishop Brooks, and that was the men's meeting as well. So a lot of some really good ideas came from that as well, which we will ensure will feed into the overall PCREF work.
So next time we're going into the hairdressers.
Of course. Mark has promised to host us, so that sometime next month we'll be dealing with that. Hopefully Marisha will be there. I think she'd be excellent to say a few words.
But I want to thank everybody. There are some members from the AJN that are here. Company Secretary Mrs. Spence, Secretary Karen Duke, Professor Martin Livermore is there, from members of my committee. So thank you very much for joining.
Great.
And thank you so much, Marisha, for joining us and presenting
Thank
at
you for
very
having
short
me.
notice. I was just on a meeting with Marisha last week and I said, would you like to present? And she's here. So thank you very much for your quick response and for being here. And thank everyone else that joined us this evening. And you have it on Facebook. Rudy.
Yeah, we're going out Facebook Live. Thank you very much, everybody. And I think we'll be back again in November. I think it's around about the 23rd of November, but we will be back. But we will let everybody know and look forward to seeing you again.
We'll get some other speakers. So thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you, Beresford. Thank you, Ruby.
Good night.
Take care.
Latvia. Thank you very much, Latvia.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.